It's 2 o'clock and Jim has arrived, so let's call the meeting to order. Teach you to be late. Okay. We are calling the meeting to order, and we'd like to start out with the swearing in of our newest trustee, Lynn Pickens. And Francis, please take us through the swearing in.
Okay, place your right hand on the Bible, raise your left hand. I state your name.
I, Lynn Pickens,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Oklahoma,
and the Constitution of the State of Oklahoma,
and that I will not knowingly receive,
and that I will not knowingly receive,
directly or indirectly,
directly or indirectly,
any money or other valuable thing
any money or other valuable thing
for the performance or non-performance
for the performance or non-performance
of any act or duty
of any act or duty
pertaining to my office,
pertaining to my office,
other than the compensation allowed by law.
other than the compensation allowed by law.
I further swear
I further swear
that I will faithfully discharge my duties
that I will faithfully discharge my duties
as a trustee of the Oklahoma City
as a trustee of the Oklahoma City
Economic Development Trust
Economic Development Trust
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Ms. Pickens.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Lynn. This is a very important trust for the betterment of this city. And Francis, thank you so much for doing a fine job.
Oh, thank you.
Any comments you have, Lynn?
I'm just looking forward to being part of this exciting adventure. The city's doing great.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the December 11th, 2012 Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust meeting. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please cast your ballot by Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. Doing a great job. Next, we want the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust claims. You have the numbers in front of you. Are there any comments or questions relative to those claims? Okay, we have a moving approval. We have a second? Okay. All in favor, please cast your vote. Motion carries. All right, items for individual consideration. Item A, receive the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust fiscal year 2011-2012 annual financial report comprising GOLT, TIF, and general ED funds. It is being received as presented. It's a hefty document. Okay. Trustee, thank you. Thank you. It is our first meeting of the new year, so we have to be reminded of putting our microphones on. Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote. Motion carries. Item B, change order number 3, project MB 1053, City Center East Garage Pedestrian Corridor, 100 North Harvey Avenue, an increase of $10,213 in TIF funds. Any questions relative to item B, change order number 3?
I do have a question.
Okay.
On the architect's description, I was just a bit confused by the process. It indicated the purpose was to incorporate changes requested by the tenant or owner. I wonder if someone could speak to how a construction contract gets amended midstream that way.
Eric has the answers.
Thank you. I would be happy to answer. So on this particular change order that you have today, there's several items, and as the pedestrian corridor project is wrapping up, the items that you have before you and the changes that have been requested have to do predominantly with a door that was provided by Devon Contractors. We cut in the opening. We made it ready for the door. The door that arrived was just slightly different than the one that we framed it for. So once the door was installed, there were some extra finishes that needed to be added to finish the corridor project. So in the case for this, we're not paying for the door. We didn't pay for the installation of the door. This was just to finish the trimming and the things around the door to make it compatible with the rest of the corridor. So this contract is being amended for a total of about $10,000, with a portion of that going towards the door and another portion going for some emergency phones, just for public safety.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions of Eric?
I'll offer motion to approve.
Okay, motion, second. All right, all in favor, please cast your vote. Motion carries. Thank you, Eric. Item C, participation agreement for shared fiber optic telecommunication duct bank associated with the construction of Project MC0396, Project 180, Street and Streetscape Improvements, $115,941.06, also in TIF funds. Any questions relative to this? Clarification? Any? Okay.
Move to approve.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item D, a joint resolution approving an amended allocation of general obligation limited tax bond proceeds and/or investment proceeds in an amount of $1,838,250 for the Boeing Project Number 1 Joint Economic Development Agreement, GOLT. I bet you're glad that I qualified it as $1,831,250, not $1,800. Do we have a...
Today we have with us Steve Gu from the Boeing Companies, who is here to explain. There's 3 items on the agenda today that are related to the Boeing Companies and the incentive packages that have been offered to them in the past. We are amending one of the agreements that we've had in the past and entering into authorizing the general manager to negotiate on a new project with the Boeing Companies. And Mr. Gu's here to explain why these changes are necessary. So, thank you.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to address the Trust today. My name is Steve Gu. I'm the Vice President for Boeing's Aircraft Modernization and Sustainment Organization, and I moved here to Oklahoma City a year ago. So please allow me to share some background and today's request of the Trust. Boeing is the world's largest aerospace and defense company, leading the manufacture of commercial jetliners and defense, space, and security systems and products. With corporate offices in Chicago, Boeing employs more than 170,000 people across the United States and in 70 foreign countries. Here in Oklahoma, Boeing employs approximately 1,300 people, with nearly all of those in Oklahoma City. Those employees generate an annual statewide payroll of more than $96 million. Boeing and its employee philanthropic organization contribute more than $240,000 annually to worthy Oklahoma causes, and employees log more than 5,000 hours per year of community volunteer time in support of our community. And more than 5,500 Boeing retirees live in Oklahoma. We also have 166 Oklahoma-based suppliers who were paid $647 million in 2011. Now, the Boeing Company announced 2 business decisions that are leading to the creation of more than 1,000 jobs in Oklahoma City. The first was a relocation of Boeing programs located in Long Beach, California, and that was announced in August of 2010. The second was the closure of the Boeing Wichita, Kansas facility, and that was announced a year ago in January of 2012. Prior to announcing these decisions, the Boeing Company worked closely with the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce and the City of Oklahoma City staff to determine if any generally available incentives would apply to these projects. The Chamber and the City provided proposals to Boeing containing the details of the Strategic Investment Program. This program was incorporated into the business case in both decisions. As we have previously shared, the Strategic Investment Program, combined with state incentives, was a significant contributing factor in closing the business case for the decision to choose Oklahoma City versus other options on the table. Since making those announcements, employment in our Oklahoma City facility has grown by approximately 500 employees to our current total of about 1,300 employees. Our communication with the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber and the city staff have been open and candid as we have moved through this process. The application for the C-130 AMP program and the 232 jobs associated with it was approved by the Trust at its meeting on March 22, 2011. Since that time, our Department of Defense customer has experienced extensive budget constraints, which has affected Boeing's job count on the C-130 AMP program. However, we have successfully navigated these fiscal challenges without any layoffs in Oklahoma City. All of our C-130 AMP employees were successfully placed on other programs within the Oklahoma City site. This leads us to the amended request to the Trust on Boeing Project Number 1. On behalf of the Boeing Company, I have two requests of the Trust. The first is to modify the existing Strategic Investment Program agreement to include the remainder of the employees on the B-1 program who were not included in the original agreement, and to rename the existing Strategic Investment Program agreement to Boeing Project Number 1. The second request is to authorize city staff to negotiate with the Boeing Company to create a new Strategic Investment Program agreement to include Oklahoma City employment growth resulting from the decision to close the Boeing Wichita, Kansas operation and name this agreement Boeing Project Number 2. Both requests are the result of close collaboration with the city and chamber staff to ensure compliance with all applicable laws as well as city policies and program expectations, with an overarching desire by all parties to report job growth in a transparent manner. Our Department of Defense customers are facing unprecedented fiscal pressures, which may result in fluctuations in employment levels on the programs moving to Oklahoma City. Please be assured that we understand the Strategic Investment Program is post-performance. We will not apply for the incentive payment until we have created the jobs and they are validated by city staff. Thank you for the opportunity to offer this request of you, and I'm pleased to respond to any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Steve. Any questions for Steve? Okay. Steve, thank you very much, and we appreciate everything Boeing is doing. So we'll take the first item D for consideration. Chair would entertain a motion relative to item D. Move to a second. Do I hear a second? Any discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries. Congratulations on item D. Item E is amended and restated joint economic development Boeing Number 1 with the City of Oklahoma City and the Boeing Company Incorporated for the location of 285 quality jobs in Oklahoma City near 6001 South Air Depot, $1,838,250 gold. Entertain a motion on this item.
I'll offer motion to approve.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Please cast your votes. Motion carries. And third component of this is item F, resolution authorizing and directing the general manager and or his designee to negotiate an economic development agreement for subsequent trust and city council consideration with the Boeing Company to provide for certain economic development incentives in exchange for the creation of quality jobs related to Boeing Number 2 in Oklahoma City, also GOLT.
Move to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion on this? Please cast your vote. Motion carries. Steve, everyone from Boeing, we appreciate everything you're doing for the city. We are very caring about the major initiatives that you're doing, and keep it up. Thank you. Okay. Item G. Do we have a report? Okay. I'm striking item G. Item H, Quail Springs Mall. Von Mar Retail Development Project presentation. And I'm turning this over to Kathy.
This afternoon, we'd like to make a presentation to you about a project that we've been working on for a few weeks with Quail Springs Mall and the owners of Quail Springs Mall, General Growth Properties. Just as a little bit of background, and we'll get into this more as the presentations go on, but Quail Springs Mall is a large regional mall in North Oklahoma City that attracts shoppers from a wide region. And the Sears store at Quail Springs is closing, and we have that opportunity to bring a new to this market anchor tenant to the mall, and we'd like to give you some background information about it this afternoon. We will bring an item back to you in a few weeks that you will have the opportunity to vote on and consider, and then it will move forward to the City Council. But this afternoon we wanted to give you an opportunity to be briefed about this and have the opportunity to ask questions about it. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Doug Adams, who's with General Growth, and he will begin our presentations, and then I'll follow up with some more information about retail incentives.
Hi, thank you. I appreciate the trustees giving us the time to speak before you today. My name is Doug Adams. I'm a senior director at General Growth Properties, and I was asked to give just a brief overview of our company, the mall, and what we're hoping to have happen there at the center. General Growth is the second largest mall owner in the United States with about 1,800 employees. We're a publicly traded REIT founded about 50 years ago. We currently own 126 malls in the United States, a handful in Brazil, and about 135 million square feet. About 1.8 billion visitors and customers visit our malls each year. We focus on the what we call best in class, or the upper tier malls throughout the country, and we certainly consider this one of them. And our mission is taken very seriously, and we look to maintain and improve those malls on a regular basis. As I mentioned, Quail Springs is a very successful property, and we believe in the property long term. There are about 13 million visitors a year, and it is anchored by 5 different anchors: Dillard's, JCPenney, Macy's, Sears, and AMC Theater. We purchased the Sears building last year as part of a portfolio and also in anticipation of the store potentially closing. That is happening, and we expect it to close in the next couple of weeks. This is both a problem and an opportunity. One of the segments that we feel weaker at the mall and could be stronger is fashion. And we have the opportunity to bring in a new anchor, we believe, that will buttress that and make that a much more vibrant segment and serve this marketplace much better. Because this marketplace is, as you know better than I, very strong and growing quickly and also generating more income. You can see before you a brief overview. We put this up just to show the position of the anchor, Sears, that's going dark. Why this is so critical is that wing, if that anchor goes vacant for an extended period of time, can die, and that is very hard to reverse. So we're very pleased that we think we can bring someone in almost immediately to replace Sears. That anchor is Von Maur, which we're particularly excited about. We have a great relationship with this company. It is a family-owned business, medium-sized, very dedicated to customer service, very dedicated to the fashion side, and we think it's a perfect fit for this property. These are very difficult deals for us. They're very, shall we say, financially expensive for us, so we're very excited to be here and to have been discussing with the city on how to make this happen. It's also important, it would be the first Von Maur location in the state of Oklahoma. We think it would also help retain and bring dollars here that potentially now are going to other places like Dallas or other places farther away. So All of Von Maur's stores are located in malls and lifestyle centers like ours, so they're particularly well-suited and they understand this market. It compares, for people that are not familiar, with Nordstrom, Lord & Taylor, and Bloomingdale's in terms of a level of merchandise. Briefly about Von Maur, again, it's a family-owned business. They thrive and prosper on really a strong dedication to personal service. So they, as a term of a business plan, do not come out very strongly to advertise initially. We will certainly, this comes to be announced and generate press, but they rely heavily on word of mouth, referral business, strong customer service, loyalty plans, and they build a long-term customer base, and it's proved a very successful model. So we think they'll be great here. We appreciate this time and look forward to answering any questions you have. Here are a couple of images of a Von Maur store we opened within the last year in another location. They're very attractive stores. We can provide some more images of other ones, but typically compared to many of our other anchors, they're a step up in the physical appearance, comparing more with, say, a Nordstrom in terms of what the outside of their store looks like. Thank you.
Doug, hold on for any questions. Will the outside at Quail Springs Mall, will it have a little bit of this kind of brand essence, if you will, added to it, because Quail Springs is fairly generic on the outside perimeter?
Yeah, and we will come back with some more specifics on that, but the answer is yes. I mean, that's part of their branding, and unlike some of the other anchors, I won't name, that put more of a plain box, there will definitely be more of this image here at this location.
Okay. Any other questions for Doug?
Just to give you some background on how this project fits into the city's retail incentive policy and why we're pretty excited about the opportunity that it presents for Quail Springs. First of all, the city's retail incentive policy talks about providing retail incentives for projects that are new to Oklahoma City, that are regional attractions. So Quail Springs Mall is definitely a regional mall, and we believe that Von Maur helps to maintain its attractiveness as a regional retail center. As Doug mentioned, this will be the first location in Oklahoma, so it is new to market, which is another one of the provisions in the retail policy. And we've done quite a bit of analysis looking at the sales tax revenues that could be generated by Von Maur versus the existing Sears store. And I think we have to remember that, and we did look at the incremental increase between what the Sears store is now generating and what Von Maur will generate in the future. But the reality of the situation is that the Sears store is closing, and we will lose basically all of that sales tax revenue to other stores and potentially to other cities. What we did as a part of our analysis was we asked General Growth to retain a retail consultant to analyze the market and tell us a little bit about the revenues that would be generated. And then, in turn, the Alliance hired Catalyst Commercial, which is another retail consulting firm out of Texas, to verify their estimates. And some of the things that we discovered about Quail Springs Mall was that about 2/3 of the shoppers at the mall are from outside of the city limits. They live in Edmond or Guthrie or somewhere outside of Oklahoma City. We also were able to verify the estimates on sales tax revenues and annual sales projected for the store. So on this slide, you can see that Sears generates about almost $21 million in annual sales. What we project that Von Maur will generate is almost $46 million in sales. When you look at what that means for the general fund, which is the 2% general fund sales tax revenues that we really look towards when we talk about incentives, because we can't allocate the dedicated sales tax funds towards any kind of retail incentive program. And what that means is that the incremental increase in sales tax revenues for the general fund is about $500,000 a year. So we think that this does present a very attractive opportunity for Quail Springs and for Oklahoma City to help strengthen our tax base. Some of the things that we've talked about with general growth in order to make this very much a performance-based and accountable kind of incentive program was that we have proposed a 10-year sales tax rebate not to exceed $2 million. They will be required to make a minimum capital investment of $15 million in the store, and that goes to the question that you asked about what the physical appearance of the store will be. They'll also be making quite a bit of interior improvements, and then that number does not include the amount of money that Von Maur would spend on fixtures and equipment and inventory, obviously, for the store. So we're talking about a very significant investment being made at Quail Springs. And what we've proposed is that we structure the rebate at a rate of 0.5% of their gross sales with minimum annual sales required and then an annual cap, so that in year one they would not receive any kind of rebate until they had reached at least $27.5 million in sales, and then the cap on that amount would be $225,000. In years two through 4, they would have to hit a $30 million minimum sales with a $225,000 cap. Years 5 through 7, again 30 years, but a $250,000 cap. And then years 8 through 10, $30 million with a $275,000 cap. And part of this is to make sure that they achieve the sales that we anticipate that they will, and yet make sure that there's ample time to get them to get to that $2 million mark. Obviously, we hope that they're much, much more successful than this, and that our sales estimates that we did through the consulting firms will be really what they achieve, which is the $45 million number, but it may take a year or so to ramp up to those numbers. So that's what we're proposing at this point in time, and I would be glad to answer any questions or provide any follow-up information at a subsequent trust meeting if we need to.
I have just a few questions. Thank you, Kathy. So that I understand the incentive structure you just described, and going off the projections within the slide 2 of your Alliance presentation, we would see about a $500,000 increment if they were to hit the projected $45 million, yet the floor for the incentive structure is just slightly above where Sears has been performing. So am I right that if they live in and around the floor for the first 10 years that we barely would recapture the $2 million?
Right.
Okay. And then I guess a question for you or perhaps Mr. Adams. I understand new stores in Louisville, Overland Park, and St. Louis. Did they have a similar local economic incentive structure for that location choice?
Which location is that? I'm sorry.
St. Louis, Overland Park, or Louisville?
I believe I can get back to the trustees with specifics. It varies depending on location, whatnot, but generally there is some program with the locality.
Okay. And during your presentation, you indicated that it's financially difficult or financially challenging, forgive the paraphrase,
Sure.
to bring a company like that in. I'm a layman, so if you don't mind, educate me to what that difficulty is beyond your normal business.
Absolutely. It's, the mall business is a little different than a typical retailer. There's a sort of a business construct between the anchors and then what we call the mall area, which are the shops in between. And the mall anchors around typically are heavily incented by us to locate there in terms of a contribution. And that's usually, millions of dollars in contribution. In addition, they pay little or no rent for that. And what do they bring? They bring their name and the ability to bring people to that location. So in fact, what happens is the company incents them to come, and then the inline stores pay, a rent that would be higher than what you would typically pay on a street somewhere because they're located in the property next to the mall. So the inline stores, the small stores, are in fact, sort of in a way helping to subsidize the anchors. But the anchors require a large capital contribution up front that is made by General Growth Properties or the owner of the mall.
Yeah. It seems to me 15 million is a pretty sizable minimum.
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah. Yeah, we've seen, it depends. It's a very desirable anchor. I can tell you the more desirable the anchor, they know it.
Okay. Thank you for your information. Just a word of thanks for the work that you've done on it, Kathy. I certainly recognize from the city's perspective, especially if we're attracting out-of-city residents that are bringing resources into the equation. I worry about Premier Mall like that losing an anchor and it going the way that we've seen other urban malls go. So that is a concern to me, but I would love to have that information on our peer cities perhaps, or other cities where they've had recent locations and what that took to get them there. But otherwise, I understand what you're suggesting.
One of the couple of things that I wanted to just point out to you is that the incentives that we're offering are to General Growth. They're not to Von Maur, because General Growth will be the company that's kind of expending the funds to get them here, and we'll be assisting with that. The other thing is when we look at these incentive packages, obviously General Growth is going to argue, well, we're generating an extra $500,000 a year in sales tax revenue. We want all of that back. Well, we take a much more conservative view of it and believe that some of that may be absorbed by other retailers within the Oklahoma City area, so that's why we discount it quite a bit. We did it with the outlet mall, and we took a very similar approach with this one. And I do want to emphasize the importance of finding a new anchor tenant for a mall. I think it's a very difficult thing to do today. There aren't very many anchor tenants just floating around out there ready to land somewhere. And we do have some experience with what happens to a mall when you start to lose anchors and those parts of the mall where that anchor was start to diminish. And we really don't want to see that happen at Quail Springs, and I think this will really help us make certain that doesn't. And that actually will begin to attract a higher level of the inline retailers on that part of the mall and really help bolster Quail Springs in the future.
Just additional thought to that idea, I guess. From the presentation that General Growth provided, obviously it indicates it competes at Nordstrom's, Lord & Taylor, and Bloomingdale's level. In your professional opinion, are there any local retailers that would consider themselves a peer of that competition and might be offended that we're incentivizing an out-of-stater to come and directly compete with them?
I think there's that possibility.
Okay.
I mean, and it's always a possibility when you begin to provide incentives to retail. And I would imagine that there's a lot of local retailers that were here before we provided incentives to the outlet mall that think they compete with them. So I think that the key is that this is a regional retail center and a new-to-market concept that provides a broader level of retail than maybe and a different level of retail than what's available in our market today. And a few years ago, the Chamber did a study about the sales tax that we're losing to Dallas, because some people like to go down there and shop, because they have Nordstrom's and some other choices that we don't have. And choices like this store may help us overcome some of that leakage that we're experiencing to larger markets. So.
It definitely seems to fit within our policies and purpose. Just becomes a question of, I guess, the terms that you negotiate and present back. But thank you for the information.
To follow up to your point about other malls from other cities aggressively trying to attract, North Park Mall in Dallas used to run ad campaigns trying to attract visitation to Dallas. So it's important for us to maintain and grow our options. Yeah. Yes, Lee?
Yeah, from the GGP standpoint, you all feel pretty good that with this incentive package, you'll be able to lock up the deal with Van Maur?
Sorry, I should just stand up. Yes, we do. We feel very confident with the work we've done with the Alliance and the city that this deal can come together in short order.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you very much, Doug. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Chair would entertain a motion to approve Item H. Just a presentation, excuse me. Have to have Francis make me clear. Thank you. I'm substituting, remember that. I'm not the real deal here. Okay. All right. General Manager report. Brent?
Thank you. In your packet is the General Manager's report for the period through November. There's not many changes from our last meeting where we had an October report. I do wanted to point out that regarding retail outlet mall, finished the month of November for the first 4 months for August through November at $42.2 million in sales. November was a good month for the outlet mall, so things are progressing well and they're meeting our expectations regarding that. I do want to just point out to you, we are moving along. In December, you approved the authorization of our doing the bond issue regarding TIF number 8. We're proceeding with that, and we're hopeful to have that in place in March, April time frame. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
No questions, I presume. Thank you, Brent. Appreciate it. Any comments from the staff, trustees, or citizens? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for your attention.